Alright, doing another coronavirus update today. I'm continuing to be unhealthy and sitting around vegging out in lockdown, refreshing the coronavirus website over and over, which is not healthy. It just kind of stresses one out. Although I've kind of gotten over it. But I just wanted to record a few new thoughts on the coronavirus. I pretty much stand by my earlier videos that basically said it's overblown. Even as the death tolls exploded, you got to understand, keep it in context. We had 1,000 people die yesterday. Okay, that sucks. It's terrible. You know, feel bad for the victims, families, all that. It sucks. But nobody's against dying more than I do. Clay Travis, trademark disclaimer. But having said that, 8,000 people a day die in the United States. You know, way more people than even COVID die from heart disease and cancer every day. Or at least more than 1,000 a day. So 8,000 deaths a day in the United States. And COVID yesterday took 1,000. So you're talking about 12% more deaths yesterday. So theoretically we may have gone from 8,000 deaths in a normal day yesterday to 9,000. Is 12% more of anything or reason to panic, you know? Probably not. And I sincerely doubt it's a direct addition of deaths, because a lot of these people, most victims are elderly, very elderly. They have underlying conditions, multiple underlying conditions, you know, diabetes, whatever, heart disease, you know, things that put them on the edge anyways. So these deaths are not like straight additional deaths. A lot of these would be happening anyway. So like something like the mortality rate is probably not even changing much. And last I checked this Europe mortality site, and I did that in one of my videos, it hadn't even shown up in Italy. And Italy is losing like way more people per capita than we are, as you see here. They're losing 230 per million, and we're losing 17 per million. So you do a little math on that. Their people are dying at a rate of 13.5 times ours. So you can multiply our death rate by that. 13.5 times 1,000 died yesterday. That would be like equivalent in the United States, about 13,500 people dying yesterday. Can you imagine that? You think it's bad now. But, I mean, I just wanted to get some overall feelings. Mainly, it's kind of condensed in my mind how this thing's going to go, probably. And it's not all that pretty of a scenario. It's probably, in my opinion, going to go like Italy. If you look, Italy has been having like 700 to 1,000 people die every single day. Okay? You can look at their daily deaths. Starting from like March 20th, they had 627 deaths. And it had been climbing a lot every day before then. But they've kind of hit a little bit of a plateau here. Ever since especially like March 27th, they had 919. That was their daily peak. But these peaks are kind of meaningless because they can depend on reporting. Like Nate Silver on Twitter has been talking about how in the United States, we seem to have a surge of deaths on like Monday and Tuesday. Simply because people aren't reporting them on the weekends because it's the weekend and they're being lazy or whatever, you know. So like states aren't necessarily reporting all their deaths on the weekends. Then we kind of get a surge on Monday and Tuesday. So you can see that these individual death dates are probably not that accurate. But you see that they've basically gone to a very high level of deaths. 700, 800, 900. And they're just kind of staying there. And unfortunately for now. Unfortunately, I feel like that's probably the way it's going to continue to go in the United States as well. You know, you can usually probably look at it. Just checking out their new cases. You can probably look at it as a precedent. Like I feel like we're going to be like Italy, most likely, just at a much lower death rate because we don't have crappy socialized healthcare. Italy ran out of ventilators really fast. We're not going to run out of ventilators in the United States. You know, we take care of our people. We spend what it takes, good or bad. You know, We're not going to run out of ventilators. We're not going to run out of hospital beds, period. We'll send boats to New York. We aren't going to run out of hospitals. Now, there is an issue with people. You can upstaff. I fully believe we'll upstaff the ventilators, the hospital beds, to whatever capacity is needed. Unlike Italy, which ran out of ventilators early on, and so people started dying much faster over there. When they start running out of beds and ventilators, people just die like crazy. Which they don't care because they're Italy. And, you know, they're socialized medicine. They don't care. They don't want to pay for expensive medical equipment and so forth. That's their decision. So yeah, so the deaths just kind of got high. They're not really declining that much. They just kind of got to a high plateau and kind of stayed there. And I believe, unfortunately, that's probably, I'm going to assume, the way it's going to go in the United States. And we see day after day pretty high death tolls. Yesterday was 1,000. The day before was 900 and something. I suspect the United States is going to go pretty much the same route as Italy. And Spain now. And probably the UK now. Now, our death rate will be much lower as a per capita, because we're going to take care of our people better, and we're going to have more ventilators and all that. Oh, I was talking about staffing. You can staff up beds and ventilators all you want. The bottleneck starts to be per people. It's much harder to staff up nurses that have to go through 4 years of school, 2 years of school, whatever it is. And doctors have to go through 10 years of school and internships. You can't just conjure those out of thin air. You can't conjure more doctors and nurses out of thin air like you sort of can ventilators and hospital beds and, you know, set up tents or whatever you need to do for hospitals. Can't do that with personnel. So that is a factor. It's harder to scale up people. Nate Silver on Twitter kind of pointed that out, and that really, so credit to him. But yeah, I don't believe we'll have death rates anywhere near Italy, Spain. You see here, deaths per 1 million population, how much lower we are. I don't believe we will. But I think maybe it's going to be 1,000 deaths. Maybe it's going to be 2,000. That would still be much, much less per capita than Italy. Because you have to remember, Italy's like 50, 60 million people. We're 330 million. So we're 5 to 6 times more population. So if you just do this, 5 to 6 times more deaths, that'd be like 4,000 deaths. 6 times that would be 4,000 deaths. 5 times that would be like 3,800 deaths. So if we were just scaling like Italy, we should be having like 4,000 deaths a day right now. Like I said, I don't think it's ever going to get that bad, but I can see it getting to like 2,000 deaths a day. You know, it looks right now maybe it's going to stabilize around 1,000. But every day is a new adventure, so. So yeah, that's where I'm at with it. I think that, unfortunately, it's going to stabilize at a high number of deaths, which is going to look bad. But you need to keep it in context. These are elderly, infirm people. It sucks, but it is what it is. It's not like a bunch of young people that their whole lives ahead of them are dying. These are people with underlying medical conditions. The mortality rate is probably not being affected that much because these people were not long for this world. Coronavirus or not, you know. You know, these are not like the working class backbone of society here. You know, it still sucks that they die. It's terrible, but, you know, life is hard. In the 1800s, people just died by the millions of plagues and stuff. Like half the population would die, young people, everybody. And they just had to soldier on, you know. So this is nothing by comparison. So that's my thing. Like, you need to keep it in context. These high numbers, they get to me too. They suck, but they still don't really affect anything. That's the weird thing. Like, I don't know anybody who's died. In my little Texas county, you know, there's nobody dying. I think we've had one death, and it was a 91-year-old man with underlying conditions. You know, it just is what it is. You know, it's not going to affect us. We have to. The funny thing is I think that in some ways the panic's probably almost less now than when it was like the first few days of the pandemic, when like 100 or 200 people a day were dying. You know, remember that? And it was like, oh, the grocery stores were wiped out. Now you can go to the grocery store, and at least the last few times I've been, I don't know on a day-by-day basis. I haven't been today. The last few times I've been to the grocery stores, it's been less wiped out than before. Like, there were a couple days I went where pretty much all the meat was gone. All of it. All the hamburger, everything gone. Now, last time I went, there was a decent amount of meat left. Not like a full selection, but there was decent amounts of hamburger, everything. Now, a lot of that can be like time of day, I think, just when they restock. Same thing with toilet paper and stuff like that. It's like you go at one time, you won't find any. If you go at early in the morning, I think, and they just got a truck, you'll find some, that kind of thing. But still, like I said, in general, my feeling is, as each day goes by and people realize their daily lives are not being affected, there's not people dying in the streets, no matter what the media is telling us, that the panic, which is this bigger problem in my opinion than the pandemic itself, is lessening. Paradoxically, as the actual amount of deaths are going up. But again, we need to keep in mind that these deaths are still a low portion compared to the 8,000 deaths that happen every single day in America normally. And so yeah, that's what I think. I think the deaths are going to stabilize, maybe 1,000, maybe 1,500. And unfortunately, they're probably going to be there for day after day after day after day, just like Italy, 10 days or more, I would imagine. And I don't know when the peak. I wanted to make another point about this coronavirus, and there's been talk of sports leagues returning and all this stuff. Which seems very distant right now. I feel like for the NBA, which I really hope returns, or any of these sports events to return, you really have to feel like we've turned a corner. That's the one thing. Maybe I'm not breaking any news here, but that's the one thing it's really going to be telling me is, when do we feel like we've turned the corner on this? Like, from now on, it's going to get better. And I don't know. I don't feel that yet because of the death tolls or what, I don't know when you feel that way, because of when we can start letting people congregate again, I don't know when we're going to feel that way. It could be a long time, unfortunately, to me, because if I'm going again by Italy, we could have, a month or something of just high death counts. High meaning like 1,000. Nothing high, really. Not really high, but high in raw numbers. So, like I said, to me it's really important to feel like we turned a corner on it. And I don't feel that yet. And I don't know. I think we'll just know when we get there. But that's really important to me, to when you're going to have to starting society back up. The next problem for me, and it's a vicious catch-22, is the economy is shut down. And I think that all these Democrats and liberals who are like, oh, lock down everything, lock everybody in their house, send the police and the military around to make sure nobody can go outside. Those crew, the Corona bros that are hoping this is as bad as possible, that want the economy to tank so they can hurt Trump in the election, CNN and all those people that are actively rooting for this virus. The next problem is, now you're going to have the next side of it, which is the economy, which so far everyone has been able to ignore, and hopefully we will continue to be able to ignore. And part of me says we might be able to ignore it, because that the only people losing their jobs are service jobs that are kind of non-essential. But, we'll see about that. There was the big shocking number today was that I think 6.6 million people filed for unemployment benefits, which I think was like a shocking number, like even way higher than even the shockingly high expectations everybody had. Like, of course, we know the coronavirus is going on, and we had record high filers last week, but everybody's expecting this week to be like bonkers, and I guess it was like even twice as bonkers as they ever expected, or something like that, in unemployment claims. Which, fair to them. I mean, anyone who gets laid off right now, file for unemployment. But all this money's coming out of paper. The inflation's got to be off the charts, because the government is just printing money like there's no tomorrow right now. I think the next shoe to drop is going to be huge inflation. The prices are going to go through the roof, in my opinion. It's pretty rough. But yeah, it's like a double-edged sword. You got to lock everybody down, supposedly, to stop coronavirus, but then that's more, all the focus has been on coronavirus up to this point. In my opinion, as the days goes on, there's going to be more and more focus on the economy, and there's probably very well could, in my opinion, be an inflection point where the economy becomes more important than the coronavirus, and people start saying, hey, we need to go back to work, Because, and it's not even near here yet, but I've seen bad recessions, and it gets bad, and you start getting fearful that, hey, can we ever get out of this? Like the 2008, was it recession? 2009? Those recessions are just as scary as this coronavirus, if not worse, because we're going to beat the coronavirus. You get a bad enough recession, you don't know if, you don't know how bad it's going to get, or if you can get out. So that's what I'm thinking here, that, the next pincer that we're going to be caught by is economy, and I don't know what's going to happen then, because I can't see them reopening. I say there may come a point where there's more pressure to reopen society, but then can you imagine the explosion of coronavirus cases that occur? Or it may not, because the weather may warm up. That may solve 90% of this, or we may get more vaccines, or the chloroquine or whatever it's called that supposedly may help, the malaria medicine may start taking an effect, I don't know, but it sucks. And, no, to me it looks like we're headed for a record day today, because we've got 616 deaths as of 2:45 p.m. Let me refresh it here. 666 now. Why does it always hit that number? I saw it the other day. It was at 666 as well. Coincidence? But I think we're headed for a monster day today. We had a big day from New Jersey, but we always get 2 big drops a day from New York. Death drops, I call them. And we've only had our first morning one today, and it's 154, which was a little lower than yesterday's morning drop. I think they usually drop about 200 in the morning. But I think they had a huge drop yesterday, because they ended up at 500. So their second drop was close to 300. So there's no telling with New York, but we've got a big second drop from New York coming. New Jersey may be done. I think they only do 1 drop a day. Michigan beat yesterday. Everywhere I'm looking, Texas, these numbers are still incredibly low. When you look at whole huge states, oh wow, this state had 27. That's absolutely nothing in the scheme of things for a state. It's kind of amazing how low these numbers are, really, for every state except, these. Yeah, just looking at this, these numbers are so low. 20, 30 people dying in entire states in a day. That's absolutely nothing. But anyways, I still don't know about how we're playing this thing. I don't, to this day, I'm not a doctor, but I wonder if social distancing is really the way to go, because for me, one of the ways that we're finally going to stop this thing is we get herd immunity. Which herd immunity, if you don't know, just means like enough people catch it that now they're immune to it, that you don't get it anymore. Don't give me this. I think, yes, you can catch it again, but it's like much milder and rare. There's going to be people lying to you about everything because they're trying to make this virus seem worse. So there's people saying like, oh, it's mutate. Some guy on Twitter told me it's already mutated 6 times. That's a lie. All the mutations are not like the actual strain. Yes, there have been mutations, but they don't do anything. The actual virus does not mutate like the normal flu. That's why the flu comes around every single year, because it mutates. And you make a vaccine for it 1 year, and it comes back the next year anyway because it mutates. Coronavirus is not going to do that. SARS didn't do that. These coronaviruses do not do that. People are going to try to scare tactic you as much as possible and tell you stuff like, oh, it's going to mutate and blah, blah, blah. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. And, or, oh, you can catch it again. No, you can't. Maybe you can, but it's like 20% as strong, and it's not likely, So basically, no, you can't. So, that's that. I think that really the only way we get out of here is 3 things. Only long-term solutions. Herd immunity. I don't know if that's a thing, like in really hard hit places like New York. Are they starting to get some? I don't know. I hope so. Heat. That's coming slowly. I think it's protecting places like Texas and Florida right now, and even Louisiana, though it's been hit. And then a vaccine or some other kind of medical intervention. Those are the 3 things that we really need to look at for the long term. And then, yeah, that's all I pretty much God on it. We need to turn the corner on it, and we need to worry about the economy, because in the end, that could be the bigger deal than the actual coronavirus. And I wonder if there's going to become a tipping point where public opinion starts being more towards, let's open it up. See, my thing all along was, I don't know about this social distancing to this day. Because to me, you can't get rid of it by social distancing. You can slow it down and stop it, but it's always there smoldering, you know? So what happens when you have to open society back up again? What then? You know? You can't stay on lockdown forever, much as liberals probably want us to. Or at least until the election, and they hope to defeat Trump. Then they'll be all optimistic and wanting to open everything up and so forth. But yeah, like I said, I still to this day, I'm not sure about the social distancing. Like, would we have been better off just getting this over with, you know? Because like I say, to me, you're just letting it smolder. The more you lock down, yes, you contain it, but you also lengthen it. That's a thing. Like in Israel with the swine flu, they locked it down, so they had it for 2 years. The United States didn't lock it down, and we just had it for 1 year. That's what happens, you know. By locking it down, you contain it, and you keep it smoldering, but it doesn't go away either, because it's still there smoldering. So I don't know. honestly, what the answer is. Now, if you hadn't social distancing, you'd probably have just waves and waves and waves and waves of people in hospitals. It would have overwhelmed hospitals, and that would have been bad too. So I don't know if not social distancing was the way to go either. But part of me would have just said, like, let it go. Keep life going as normal. It sucks, but, you know, I don't know. Then probably people would have panicked too, though, because, oh my gosh, you know, you would have seen death tolls a lot higher, so maybe people would have freaked out. And maybe just stopped going to work because of panic and stuff. You know, it's hard to say. So anyways, that's my little coronavirus thoughts for today.